The first time I saw Marcus smile, I knew something was wrong with him. Not the normal kind of wrong you see in kids who act out or throw fits. This was different. His smile never reached his eyes, and when he looked at me, it felt like he could see right through my skin. Sarah warned me about her son before I moved in with them. She said he had trouble with new people. She said he needed time to warm up to strangers. What she didn't tell me was that Marcus had been planning my removal from the moment I walked through their front door. I should have listened to the voice in my head that first night, the one that whispered, "Run," when I found him standing at the foot of my bed at 3 in the morning, just standing there in his blue pajamas, staring at me with those dark eyes. When I asked what he needed, he tilted his head like a curious bird. "I was wondering how long you plan to stay," he said in that calm voice of his. He was only 8 years old, but he spoke like an adult, like someone who had seen too much and learned too much too young. I told him I wasn't going anywhere, that I loved his mom and wanted to be part of their family. Marcus nodded once, turned around, and walked back to his room. The next morning, Sarah found glass in my coffee cup. She blamed herself for not watching him better. She said kids sometimes act out when their routine changes. She promised to talk to him about being more careful in the kitchen. I wanted to tell her that 8-year-olds don't accidentally drop glass into coffee cups, but I didn't want to start a fight. The accident started small after that. My toothbrush fell into the toilet. My work shirts got bleach stains on them. My car keys went missing for hours at a time. Sarah always had an explanation. Kids are clumsy, kids forget where they put things. Kids don't understand how their actions affect others. But I caught Marcus watching me through the crack in his bedroom door when these things happened. He would stand there perfectly still, studying my face like he was taking notes. When our eyes met, that strange smile would spread across his lips. Then he would close the door without making a sound. I tried talking to him man to man. I sat him down one afternoon while Sarah was at the store. I asked him what I could do to make things better between us. I told him I wasn't trying to replace his dad or change his life. I just wanted us to get along. Marcus listened without blinking. When I finished talking, he folded his hands in his lap like a little businessman. "My mom was happier before you came here," he said. "She smiled more. She laughed at my jokes. Now she spends all her time worrying about you fitting in." I asked him if he remembered his father. Marcus shook his head. "He left when I was 3. Mom said he couldn't handle being a parent." His eyes got that sharp look again. Some people just aren't meant for this kind of life. The message was clear. Marcus had decided I was like his father, someone who would leave eventually. He was just trying to speed up the process. I told Sarah about our conversation that night, but she said I was reading too much into it. She said Marcus was a smart boy who sometimes said things that sounded more grown up than he meant them. 2 weeks later, I found a dead mouse in my lunch bag. Not just any mouse. This one had been cut open with something sharp. Its tiny organs were arranged in a neat line next to its body. The whole thing was wrapped in one of my clean handkerchiefs. I threw the bag away and didn't eat lunch that day. When I got home, Marcus was doing homework at the kitchen table. He looked up when I walked in and asked how my day went. His voice was full of fake concern, like a bad actor in a school play. "Fine," I said. "Just fine." Sarah came home an hour later with groceries. She started putting things away and asked Marcus to set the table for dinner. He jumped up right away, eager to help. While he arranged the plates and forks, he hummed a little tune under his breath. He seemed so normal, so innocent. That night in bed, Sarah curled up next to me and said she was glad Marcus and I were getting along better. She said she could tell we were starting to bond. I wanted to tell her about the mouse, but I knew how it would sound. Like I was the crazy one. Like I was making up stories about a little boy. The next morning, I found my razor blade missing from the bathroom. I looked everywhere for it. Behind the sink, in the medicine cabinet, even in the trash can. When I asked Sarah if she had seen it, she said she would help me look after work. Marcus appeared in the bathroom doorway while we searched. He watched us move things around and check under the counter. When Sarah asked if he had seen my razor, he shook his head and said he never touched grown-up things without permission. Maybe it fell down the drain, he suggested. Sometimes things just disappear. He said it with that same helpful tone, but his eyes were laughing at me, like we were sharing a private joke that only he understood. I bought a new razor that afternoon. When I got home, I found the old one sitting on my pillow. The blade had been removed and placed neatly beside it. On my nightstand was a note written in careful block letters. Be more careful with sharp things. I showed the note to Sarah. Her face went pale when she read it. She called Marcus into our bedroom and asked him about it. He looked at the paper with wide, confused eyes. He said he had never seen it before. He asked why someone would write something like that. Sarah hugged him and told him not to worry. She said it was probably just a prank from one of the neighbor kids. After Marcus left the room, she turned to me with worry in her eyes. She said, maybe we should call the police. Someone had been in our house. I wanted to scream. I wanted to grab her shoulders and make her see what her son was doing. But how do you tell a mother that her 8-year-old child is slowly driving you insane? How do you explain that every accident is planned and every innocent look is a lie? Instead, I agreed that we should be more careful about locking the doors. I helped her check all the windows and make sure the house was secure. Marcus watched from the hallway, nodding along with our safety plans. He even suggested we get better locks for the basement. The basement. I should have asked why he mentioned the basement. We rarely went down there except to do laundry or check the water heater. But something in his voice made me pay attention. Something eager and excited, like he was looking forward to showing me something special. That weekend, Sarah went to visit her sister for the day. She asked if I minded staying home with Marcus. She said it would be good for us to spend time together without her there to act as a buffer. I told her I thought it was a great idea. Marcus and I spent the morning playing board games. He was different when his mother wasn't around. More relaxed, more honest. He didn't pretend to like me or try to act like a normal kid. We were just two people sharing the same space, both pretending everything was fine. Around noon, he asked if I wanted to see something cool in the basement. He said his mom didn't like him going down there alone, but since I was with him, it would be okay. The way he said it made my stomach tighten, but I couldn't think of a good reason to say no. The basement stairs creaked under our feet as we went down. Marcus led the way, moving through the dim light like he knew every step by heart. At the bottom, he pointed to a corner where old boxes were stacked against the wall. "There's a loose board back there," he said. "I found it last month when I was hiding from Mom during hide and seek." He smiled that empty smile. "Want to see what's behind it?" I followed him to the corner. Sure enough, one of the wall boards was slightly separated from the others. Marcus wiggled it with his small fingers until it came free. Behind it was a dark space about the size of a shoebox. "Look inside," he whispered. I used my phone's flashlight to peer into the hole. What I saw made my throat go dry. There were pictures of me, dozens of them. Photos taken through windows when I was getting dressed. Images of me sleeping. Pictures of me eating, working, talking on the phone. Some looked like they had been taken with a cheap camera. Others looked like they were drawn by hand. Under the pictures was a notebook. I pulled it out with shaking fingers and opened it to the first page. It was Marcus's handwriting, but neater than usual, like he had taken extra care to make it readable. Day 1. New man moved in today. Mom is happy but wrong. He has mean eyes when she's not looking. Day 5. He pretends to like me, but I can see the truth. He wants Mom all to himself. He wishes I would disappear. Day 12. Made him find glass in coffee. He looked scared. Good. Scared people make mistakes. Day 18. He's getting suspicious. Need to be more careful. Need to make him think he's going crazy instead of just angry. Page after page of observations and plans. Marcus had been studying me like a science project. Every reaction, every emotion, every moment of doubt had been carefully recorded. At the back of the notebook were drawings of me in different situations. Me falling downstairs. Me cutting myself with kitchen knives. Me hanging from a rope in the garage. I looked up from the notebook to find Marcus watching my face. He wasn't pretending to be innocent anymore. His expression was calm and calculating, like he was waiting to see what I would do next. "You've been planning this from the beginning," I said. He nodded. "Mom needs someone who will stay, someone who won't leave like Dad did. But you're not the right person." He reached out and took the notebook from my hands. "You're weak. Weak people always leave when things get hard." "Sarah loves me," I said. "We're going to get married." "No, you're not." Marcus put the notebook back in the hole and replaced the loose board. "You're going to leave tonight. You're going to pack your things and drive away and never come back." I laughed, but it came out wrong, shaky and nervous. "What makes you think I would do that?" Marcus tilted his head again, that bird-like movement that made him look more like a small adult than a child. "Because if you don't, I'll tell Mom you touched me. I'll tell her you hurt me when she wasn't home. I'll show her the bruises I gave myself and say they came from you." The basement suddenly felt colder, smaller, like the walls were moving closer together. "She won't believe you," I said, but my voice sounded weak even to me. "Yes, she will." Marcus climbed back up the stairs, moving with quick, quiet steps. Moms always believe their kids, especially when their kids are crying and scared and showing them marks on their bodies. I followed him upstairs on unsteady legs. In the kitchen, Marcus opened the refrigerator and poured himself a glass of milk. He drank it slowly, like he had all the time in the world, like we were just having a normal conversation about normal things. "You could tell her about the notebook," he said between sips, "but it's not there anymore. I moved it while you were staring at the pictures, and even if you found it again, who do you think she would believe? Her 8-year-old son or her boyfriend, who's acting paranoid and making wild claims?" He was right. I could see how it would play out. Me, frantic and desperate, trying to convince Sarah that her child was some kind of evil mastermind. Her, horrified and protective, choosing her son over the man who was obviously losing his mind. The whole thing would be over in minutes. Marcus finished his milk and put the glass in the dishwasher. "I'm going to play video games until Mom gets home," he announced. "You should probably start packing. It'll look better if you're gone before she gets back, like you left on your own instead of being forced out." He walked past me toward the living room, then stopped and looked back. "Oh, and don't think about calling the police or trying to get help. I've been hurt before. I know how to make bruises look real. and I'm very good at crying when adults are watching. For the next 3 hours, I sat at the kitchen table and stared at the wall. My mind kept racing through options, but every path led to the same place. Marcus had planned this perfectly. He had studied every angle and prepared for every possibility. I was trapped in a game where he had written all the rules. When Sarah came home, she found me sitting in the same spot. She kissed my cheek and asked how my day with Marcus had been. I told her it was fine, educational. She smiled and said she was proud of both of us for getting along so well. Marcus appeared in the doorway as she spoke. He looked at me with those dark eyes and gave me the tiniest nod. A reminder, a warning. Time was running out. That night, after Sarah fell asleep, I lay awake staring at the ceiling. Every plan I came up with fell apart under Marcus's cold logic. I could try to expose him, but he had already thought of that. I could try to fight back, but what kind of man wages war against a child? I could try to convince Sarah to move away with me, but why would she leave her home and school district because of her boyfriend's strange requests? At 2 a.m, I heard footsteps in the hallway, slow, deliberate steps that stopped outside our bedroom door. I knew it was Marcus. I knew he was standing there in his pajamas waiting to see what I would choose. The footsteps moved away after a few minutes, but the message was clear. He wasn't going anywhere. This was his house, his mother, his life. I was the intruder, the temporary guest who had overstayed his welcome. I got up before dawn and started packing my clothes. I told myself I was being smart, strategic, that leaving now didn't mean Marcus had won. It just meant I needed time to think of a better plan, a way to expose him that he hadn't considered yet. But as I folded my shirts and rolled up my socks, I knew the truth. Marcus had read me like an open page from day one. He had seen my weaknesses and exploited them with the patience of someone much older, much more experienced in the art of psychological warfare. Sarah woke up as I was carrying my last bag to the car. She stood in the doorway in her nightgown, looking confused and hurt. She asked where I was going, why I was leaving without talking to her first, what she had done wrong. I told her she hadn't done anything wrong, that I just needed some space to figure things out, that maybe we had moved too fast and I needed time to think about what I really wanted. The words tasted like ash in my mouth, but they were easier than the truth. Marcus appeared behind his mother as I loaded the final bag. He was wearing those same blue pajamas from that first night, the ones he had been wearing when he stood at the foot of my bed and asked how long I planned to stay. His face showed the perfect amount of sleepy confusion, like he couldn't understand why I was leaving so early in the morning. "Are you going on a trip?" he asked in that innocent voice, the one that had fooled his mother for 8 years, the one that had almost fooled me. "Something like that," I said. Sarah stepped forward and took my hands. Her eyes were full of tears she was trying not to shed. "This isn't how relationships work," she said. "You don't just run away when things get complicated. You talk. You work through problems together." I wanted to tell her everything. About the mouse and the razor blade and the notebook full of plans to drive me away. About her son's empty smile and calculating mind. About the photos taken through windows and the drawings of me in painful situations. But Marcus was standing right there, watching every word, ready to counter every claim with tears and bruises and the kind of performance that would destroy any chance I had of being believed. Instead, I kissed her cheek and told her I would call her soon, that I just needed a few days to clear my head. She nodded but didn't smile. She knew I was lying. She knew this was goodbye disguised as a temporary separation. As I drove away, I looked in the rearview mirror and saw them standing on the front porch. Sarah with her arms wrapped around herself, looking lost and abandoned. Marcus with his hand on her shoulder, already playing the role of the man of the house. The protector, the one who would never leave her like all the others had. He had won, completely and totally. In less than 2 months, he had identified my weaknesses, exploited my fears, and removed me from his life without ever raising his voice or throwing a tantrum. He had done it all with the cold efficiency of someone who had been planning for this moment since the day I moved in. I drove for 6 hours before I stopped at a motel. While I sat on the lumpy bed eating fast food, I thought about calling Sarah, about trying one more time to make her understand what her son really was. But I knew it was pointless. Marcus had prepared for that too. By now, he had probably told her how sad he was to see me go, how much he had been looking forward to having a father figure in his life, how confused he was about why I had left without saying goodbye to him. That night, I dreamed about those dark eyes watching me through the crack in the bedroom door. In the dream, Marcus was older, taller, but his smile was exactly the same, empty and calculating, like he was still taking notes on every move I made, even in sleep. I woke up in a cold sweat and knew I would never go back to that house. Marcus had made sure of that. He had studied me like a lab rat and found every button to push, every fear to exploit. He had turned my own mind against me and made me complicit in my own removal. 3 days later, Sarah called. Her voice was small and hurt. She said she didn't understand why I had left, that Marcus kept asking when I was coming home, that she had told him I just needed some time, but she wasn't sure she believed it herself. I almost told her then, almost explained about the notebook and the pictures, and the way her son's mind worked like a chess player who was always thinking 5 moves ahead. But I could hear Marcus in the background asking innocent questions about when dinner would be ready, playing the role of the normal child who missed his almost stepfather. "I'm sorry," I said instead. "I thought I was ready for this, but I'm not." Sarah was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was different, harder. "Marcus said you might not come back. He said some people just aren't meant to be fathers." She paused. I told him he was wrong, but maybe he understands things better than I do. After she hung up, I sat in the motel room and laughed. Not because anything was funny, but because Marcus had played it perfectly. He had planted that seed of doubt in his mother's mind while pretending to miss me. He had made her question my commitment while appearing to defend it. Even in victory, he was still working the angles. I never called Sarah again. 6 months later, I heard through mutual friends that she was dating someone new, a man who worked at the bank where she cashed her checks, someone stable and local who would be harder to drive away than a guy who lived across town and had no real ties to the community. I wondered how long it would take Marcus to get rid of him, what methods he would use, whether he would stick with the psychological approach or try something more direct. I almost felt sorry for the guy, walking into that house with no idea what he was facing. But mostly, I tried not to think about it. I moved to a different state and found a different job. I told myself that leaving was the right choice, that no relationship was worth the kind of mental warfare Marcus specialized in, that some battles aren't meant to be fought. Sometimes, though, in the quiet moments before sleep, I still see those dark eyes watching me. Still hear that calm voice asking how long I plan to stay. Still feel the weight of knowing that somewhere out there, an 8-year-old boy had beaten me at a game I didn't even know I was playing. And the worst part? I think he enjoyed it. Not just winning, but the process of breaking me down piece by piece. The careful orchestration of my own defeat. The way he made me doubt my own sanity while maintaining the perfect mask of childhood innocence. Marcus wasn't just getting rid of me. He was practicing, learning how to identify threats and eliminate them. Testing his skills on someone who was too kind or too naive to see the trap being set. Getting ready for the next man who would try to take his place as the center of his mother's world. I hope I'm wrong about that. I hope he was just a scared kid who didn't want to lose the only parent he had left. I hope the next guy is stronger than me, smarter than me, better able to see through the act and find a way to connect with the real child underneath the manipulation. But late at night, when I can't sleep, I remember the way Marcus smiled when he caught me reading his notebook. The satisfaction in his eyes when he explained how he would frame me if I didn't leave. The cold calculation of someone who had already moved on to planning his next victory. And I know that somewhere out there, a little boy with dark eyes and an empty smile is still standing guard over his mother's life. Still watching. Still waiting. Still making sure that anyone who tries to stay too long learns the same lesson I did. Some people just aren't meant for this kind of life.